I'm supposed to work now to get familiar with the assistance that I'm taking on in the end of the month. So I have a lot of things to go through, but something came, and I want to share that with you. I'm going to remove this YouTube chat. I'm simply going to read this. You can read this with me, or you can just listen to me reading it, but I will offer some thoughts as I go through it because I found it very interesting. That seems to have moved for some reason. So I'm not gonna. You're just gonna have to watch all my things. Sorry, you're also gonna see some chats that are ongoing. That happens. Let's begin. I found this website from the guy who just texted me, and it's by 𝐓𝐡𝐞 3 weeks ago. I really want to talk to this man, so I will try to reach out to him. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. Psychedelics from the Right, part 2, a response to a conservative case of entheogenic practice. As an artist whose main area of focus is religion, I've dedicated much of my life to weird ideas, odd things, fringe topics, the paranormal and mysticism, and also psychedelics. Hold on. Might have to actually put this on stream block, but it's not gonna do anything while I read this. There we go. Paranormal, the mysticism, and also psychedelics. Psychedelics were a part of my spiritual path for a long time, but eventually I stopped using them. I think this gives me an atypical perspective, as it's rare for someone to go all in on that path, then turn around and adopt a negative view of it while still staying oriented towards the same kinds of topics. I could agree to some degree. I usually don't go into my personal track record with psychedelics, but I would say that I integrated psychedelics into my life and worldview to the greatest extent that someone could without going to live in some type of psychedelic commune. See, that's something that really bothers me. Why do everyone who does psychedelics think that they have to... I put on stream mode. Why are you still doing that? Who's this? I have to read that afterwards. See, a commune... I see the thing, like people coming in and they live as a community because everyone does psychedelics and love is the answer and the hippie kind of perspective. But it seems like this is kind of the end all be all thing, that if you go all in, you are going to live in a psychedelic commune, and I disagree hard with that. I was using them as often as I could. I was using them as often as I thought I safely could. I have to mute you a little bit. Sorry, bro. It's also for your privacy. Oh my god. Okay, you didn't hear that. Let's get into it again. I was using them as often as I thought I safely could, in every context I could think of. I've done all the psychedelics that everyone has heard of, and a few that almost no one has heard of. Some were so rare that I had to personally track down governmental lab reports about them to discover what their psychoactive compounds were. That sounds like a junkie, or someone who's putting all their faith in the psychedelic compound as the magic pill. Pun intended. I've done psychedelics in combination. I've fasted for multiple days and then used ayahuasca. I've smoked DMT while on other psychedelics. I've been present for a lot of people's first psychedelic experiences. I did acid at Alex Gray's birthday party and slept under one of his paintings. I've met people who call themselves shamans and operate in this context professionally, leading what some might call small psychedelic cults. I know exactly what you mean, bro. None of this means that my assessments are necessarily correct, but nobody could say I lack experience. I do seriously have to frickin' mute everything that is on my computer right now. Focus. There. Don't. I should also say that at the outset, I am Christian. Although I'll be setting this aside as much as possible. I mention this because in the past I've been accused of being locked into an anti-psychedelic position because I am Christian, as though this is the position that I have to take because of my religion. However, I broke with psychedelics and adopted a more negative perspective of them before becoming Christian. In other words, my point of view developed independently, based on my experiences, research, and observations, not because of doctrine. I will arrest you on that, but I will not do that right now. People often act as though any cases of people damaging themselves via psychedelics are just isolated, or urban legends, or exaggerated. They're not. I personally am 1 degree away from an otherwise normal person who broke into a house the first time he took acid and went to jail. Set and setting. I also know someone whose boyfriend jumped out of a window and accidentally killed himself while on acid. And I'm just a random guy. Set and setting. On the whole, people advocating for psychedelic use tend to shield themselves from potential pushback from pointing out that it is indeed dangerous. It's not for everyone. I have a big problem with this, as the same people usually get to promote it as something people really should be doing if they can handle it. And then it's people like me who get to try and pick up the pieces when someone's lives really fall apart in a tragic and dark way as a consequence. Again, personal development should come before psychedelics. If you go for psychedelics as the end all be all magic pill, you're gonna fuck yourself hard. I feel this is an existential issue and the difference between two radically divergent views of life. On some level, painting a positive picture of psychedelics means that you are advocating for some people to use them. From my perspective, that makes you kind of a spiritual guide, which opens you up to spiritual critique, and that is something I take seriously, and you should. I think that people should find their own path, and if they are called to go and do psychedelics, at least do it in an energetic, good way. And I'm saying energetic good way because it feels weird to say it any other way. I don't do LSD because it's man-made. It is a fabricated compound that takes ages for you to wear off. I do one psychedelic, the psychedelic that grows in my garden. I think that if you're doing any plant medicine, you should do it in the fashion that you're energetically in tune with the Schumann resonance around you. Kinda. It's like you're doing the medicine that grows in the same environment that you grew in. You're aligned. And that's why I do not want to do ayahuasca, because it doesn't grow in Norway. I find it slightly blasphemic to do ayahuasca in Norway. I want to travel down to the natural origin of the plant medicine and then do it by people who have been groomed and respect the medicine throughout their entire life, who has been going through the passages to become an ayahuasquero. And I want to do that by someone I deeply trust, which is my first coach. I have very strong principles on this. This seems like a person who did psychedelics because he heard it was something that could do stuff. And, I look forward to see if my point so far is wrong, because I'm just reading this guy for the first time. Spiritual critique, I would take that seriously. Because today, people have no accountability for their own life. They have no ownership. They take no responsibility. And if you don't do that, if you don't have the faith and the power in yourself, I would not do psychedelics. I would not do psychedelics if you are subscribing your powers, your help, your support, your guidance, your external inputs, and everything that you can possibly think of in a spiritual and religious sense to an external force that you cannot talk to. You can talk to it. But then we go into, Christianity. You have God. You have one God. They say it's a monotheistic religion with one God. But Lucifer is God. In that sense. All the saints are different deities. All the angels are different deities. So technically it's not a monotheistic religion, which is a hard word to say. The thing is, it's putting all the responsibility into an external force that has a manual attached to it in form of a Bible. I see God, quote unquote, as the collective consciousness. as energy, as the universe, as everything. And if I am energy and I'm simply observing myself through myself while expanding myself, the faith is in me. The belief I need is in me. I have the power to raise my frequency. I don't have to pray. If I do pray, it is to travel alongside all the other thoughts and vibrations in the collective field. It sounds like it's a spiritual practice in itself, and I think it is. I think it is, but it is mine. And there is nothing that limits me from going all in on any religion, any belief, any spiritual practice, or anything, completely without judgment. Because why should I judge anything that is kind of part of me, just manufactured in a way that other people can believe in it? And the frequency of belief dictates how far you can take it. And my belief in myself is that I'm limitless, that everyone is limitless. So I simply live the adventure of my life through that perspective, and through the perspective of love, the lens of love. This is interesting. Modern psychedelics use in the West is almost its own folk religion. Yeah. It has its own mythology and a view of history, its own ritual practices, its own conception of its origin, a mythical golden age, its own axiology. That means its own system of determining what is important and worthwhile in life, its own framework for understanding life, our world, and what we should do. One problem is that these aspects tend to be implied, not stated outright, and accepted as obvious. This means that they are rarely explicitly questioned. No, I think this is what's really fascinating to me. When you go through a very curated, specific kind of experience where you're not falling asleep under Gray's painting, you are going to see that these things are things that you observe in yourself. The experience, you cannot deny it. It is you. You feel the unity. You feel the things. And if personal development and some basic understanding of quantum physics and psychology and what you are comes before you do the psychedelics, I believe that it's almost like having the driver's license. So now you can do this without the psychedelics, and you can meditate without the psychedelics, and you can do things in life that does not require you to do psychedelics. And you can do that removing anxiety, depression, and all those limiting beliefs, and just blowing the box of what you were taught to live in. My point is that you should be able to live a life that is so limitless, regardless of you doing psychedelics or not. Psychedelics is simply a boost, a shortcut, if you have the right person around you, if you have people who actually have your interest at heart, does not try to manipulate your experience and try to make sense the day of, like when you're trying to integrate this new thing that it just shifted your entire reality. Sorry, I have to see, like, my phone and everything is just blowing up these days. One overarching idea is that psychedelics themselves are the root of religion. Yeah. And if you read The Hidden Key, A Religion with No Name, is that what it's called? Brian Muraresku. Just Google and you'll find it. He goes into really finding the documentation of how religion, Christianity in this case, persecuted psychedelics. You know, chopped down peyote cacti, and how before that, in Elysium, in the Eleusinian Mysteries, I might be fucking up that name, so don't judge me. They were using psychedelics as a way to die before they die so they can live forever. It was for the elite. It was after the break of night. And Christianity came and ripped down those temples for Demeter where those things happened. And underneath the cathedral of one of the people in the Vatican, you can see that there are these huge stone slabs with inscriptions of the vine and the grape and all these things that supports the finding of what is it called? Archaeochemical evidence, like when they find actual chemistry in archaeological finds, like the fact that they used ergot, a psychedelic bread fungus, bread mold, in the wine that they used for the sermons. Psychedelics. So, you know, I don't know what the English word is. We have one for the Norwegian, but I'm not going to go into it. You know, when you drink the body and you eat the body of Christ and you drink the blood of Christ and all that cannibalistic stuff. That wine used to be psychedelic. Then they literally watered it down, removed the one compound that actually allowed you to see what they're talking about, so that you don't have to do it intellectually and believe another person saying it. You could actually experience it and find your own truth. It's deep fucking shit. Hidden Key, the secret religion with no name. I believe that's the name of the book. You should definitely read it. But yeah, it goes beyond religion, because it is something. Religion is a man-made thing. Religion, I was just made aware of this today. The word itself, think about it. Legion. Legion being the whole masses, right? We are legion. We are many. So I was thinking, religion is like the thing that brings people back together. In that case, religions are all over the place. And anything can be a religion. The problem is when the religion comes with a set of manuals that has a dogma and a punishment waiting for you if you don't follow the recipe. That's my thoughts on religion. Organized religion, that is. Let's see. Okay, so one overarching idea is that psychedelics themselves are the root of religion. It's assumed that if you go back far enough in history into primitive humanity, you will find an ancient intersection of shamanism and psychedelics that is the true origin of religion as we know it today. This shamanic psychedelic experience develops over time, picking up ideas, rituals, regalia, rules, until it eventually becomes an organized religion. Yeah. Sounds like someone who's building upon itself over time. The problem is that and also not adapting to new times. It would be great. The book is 2,000 years old. The problem is that for almost any religion whose origin we can really trace, this isn't what happens, and is even the opposite of how religions form. Religions seem to be typically suddenly sparked by some type of divine revelation or marketing method, not developed through gradual evolution. Take Mormonism. A new revelation was delivered, and suddenly there you have it, a new, cohesive, self-contained system. A sub-religion of the main religion. That just makes me irritated. Scientology is similar. One person made it by building a new system in total. And on the world religion stage, Islam is similar. A new cohesive system emerges as a whole, as in one total thing. I would also describe Christianity itself this way. Yeah, thank you. You can point to the break, a single lifetime, wherein the paradigm emerged. Obviously, all of these things had causes and conditions that affected their genesis and later development, but they don't slowly and organically grow out of a primordial religion. Religion. What country is it from? Ur. It's a Norwegian thing as well. And eventually become their own system. It's the other way around. Take ancient it's like having the experience and then trying to make sense of the experience. It's like SLS and do the spew and walk the talk and spewed it. All those things. I could literally change that into religion right now. And because Norway has the freedom of religion thing, I could actually be funded through those beliefs. So we are very easily swayable. That's just human nature, basically. Take ancient Egyptian history. Do we see an Egyptian shamanism that naturally and organically grew into the full Egyptian religion? In my opinion, no. Again, it's the opposite, and a lot of the development appears to have been negative. For example, comparing the pyramid text to the later coffin text and so-called Egyptian books of the dead. There is a clear regression. Rather than slow development, it feels and looks more like something that just fell from the sky, as a complete system from the beginning. Yeah, because it's an ultimate truth that is rooted in the collective consciousness, and you're just basically taking a quantum download. Look at human design. Human design is a huge, freaking insanely complex system that makes every human unique. It came through a psychedelic experience. Now, I think this all depends on how open-minded are you. That's it. And also, how attached are you to this new framework that you're going to now live your life through, because it's all up to you. With this in mind, it's hard for me to imagine substance-based shamanism slowly developing into a fully formed religion. It's not the substance. That's just the key, bro. It's just as likely as the shamanisms we see today are not sparks of the original proto-religion, but degradations of religion. The last I mentioned left when the actual structure of bones of religion are gone, the decayed remains of once cohesive living systems. You should definitely read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So, the general assumption that psychedelic shamanism is the ultimate original religion, and thus is the ultimate traditional thing, is at best just one possibility. It's at least not a foundation that is certain enough for us to start building our house upon. This point leads to the second presupposition modern Western psychedelic culture makes. Modern Western psychedelic users use psychedelics with a particular aim in mind, to gain wisdom. Are you speaking from experience, or are you just assuming that everyone does that? That sounds like a statement, not a argument. If you had to fit them into an archetype, they are almost like philosophers and maybe alchemists. Yeah, I could agree. They have a substance or a tool, psychedelics, and also your mind, your brain, your mind, that does something to them. And they want to use this tool to gain insight about themselves or about their world. But this is not the context in which the traditional forms of shamanism use substances. Traditional shamans are much more like doctors and diplomats. There is a spirit world which they can access through the use of substances. While there, they can do things like negotiate the fate of souls, or ask for better weather, or heal physical and other wounds. That made me cringe a little bit. I mean, you can do the same thing through meditation. Without going into detail, this is literally what I've shared in so many videos. Connecting to this thing without psychedelics. You don't look at psychedelics as a tool. You are the tool. Just don't be a tool. I hope that made sense. It may seem like a subtle point. It's a huge point, bro. And I hope you're under. I hope we can agree by the end of this. But these two perspectives are completely different. Yeah? They have essentially nothing in common except the use of psychoactive substances. Actually, there's a third one where you don't use the psychoactive substance. So yes, I might agree with you at some point, but I also think that, the whole psychedelic thing can be taken out of the equation. We are humans capable of way more than we have been taught, and the psychedelics open up to that realization. At least that's my personal experience. The modern Western psychedelic user isn't usually doing LSD in order to ask real spirits that live on another plane to fix his friend's kidneys or to send rain. No, because people are egocentric. The traditional shaman isn't sitting in the jungle on ayahuasca in order to gain wisdom or just to become a better person. They are doing different things, and the link between them is a fantasy of the modern Western psyche. If you talk to certain shamans in the Amazon, some of them dread doing ayahuasca. Yeah, I can imagine. They view it as something horrible that they go through in order to make these necessarily deals. See, without the psychedelic, and go to gather important things for their tribe. Yes, they are pioneers, fucking respectable and commendable people. We're not talking about knowledge or amorphous emotional outcomes. No. They are not doing it for introspective or wisdom gaining purposes. There is no link between modern Western psychedelic use and shamanism except the fact that they are both, in this case, using substances, but they are using them for different reasons. I would challenge you on your reading material. A kid in Brooklyn doing mushrooms in his apartment. Set and setting, bro. has generally nothing to do with the man in the Amazon using ayahuasca, even though he imagines that he is part of the same ancient lineage. The models and specific cases of shamanism you can study today do not paint anything like the picture that a modern Western psychedelic user generally imagines. The final point concerns the antiquity of shamanism. I agree that there probably are ancient forms of substance using shamanism. The author of the article I'm responding to, Sam McCall, cites the Eleusinian mysteries from ancient Greece as one example. Yes, I hope this is good. To be honest, that's pretty much the one convincing case to me of a well-documented large-scale religious phenomenon that was secretly employing psychoactive substances. Outside of that, the antiquity of any of these practices is just a guess. What about the files of the Vatican? Everything that happened after the Eleusinian mysteries. The persecution, the laws of 1970s, the war on drugs. Let's not see the past as the only thing that has happened to persecute and propagandize, if that is even a word, psychedelic use or the power of psychedelics. This has been happening ever since some people found out that these things can set people free, taking them out of the sheepish, victimized mentality that most people are finding themselves in, and you cannot control people who's not afraid. It's all about the control. That's it when you think about the human aspect of all of this. Take away the shamanism, the religions, the theologies, the spiritual practices, all these things. Psychedelics is simply the key. In some cases, if you don't go through near-death experiences or freaking trauma on next levels or meditation or whatever have you, because you can reach the same insights without the psychedelics. People just have not experienced enough pain to really see that and transmuted that into power. Those who have seen a lot of pain and have transmuted it, all respect to you. But the sad case is that many people will deem their past, their painful past, as a badge of dishonor, or a badge of honor in some cases, because they're fighting for their limiting beliefs. They're fighting for their conditions. They're fighting for the fact that they have to be, woe be me, all those things. Woe be unto me. So if people actually accepted the fact that they can become more, it's all about the frequency of belief in yourself. When we look at the Amazon, it's presupposed that people have been doing ayahuasca forever. But have they? We have no idea. Everything is made out of wood and decays pretty quickly in that environment. Yeah, everything made of wood is decaying pretty quickly. Ayahuasca is also very complex in terms of pharmacology. You have to find a plant that has the Maui and combine it with the plant containing DMT. And when did they deduce this? How would we know? These things might not be so ancient after all. Well, if you look away from all those stone carvings dating thousands of years back, sure, I can agree. Sometimes we can find isolated artifacts that points one way or the other, but the assumption that these things stretch back into prehistory is, in my opinion, not warranted. That's a good opinion. Northern Africa has been inhabited for an extremely long time, but as far as we know, people only discovered the coffee plant relatively recently, and it is much less complex to access the psychoactive components of coffee than it is with ayahuasca. Yeah, it's almost like you had to get that information from someone who had that information, and maybe the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 chromosome in human genome composition have some truth to it, that maybe we were visited by ancient aliens some point and we were just created and they said, do this thing and mix that to get that compound. Who the heck knows? But it's interesting to entertain the thought. Let's see. In Mexico, there's a psychoactive form of salvia, but there doesn't seem to be an ancient tradition of using it. So, at best, the assumption that these things stretch way back into history is just an assumption. Their use might actually be relatively recent. Some presenting psychedelics use as a potentially dovetailing it with what is traditionally is caught in a double bind. Sorry, I messed that up. Virtually all the world religions are actually pretty clear in saying do not do drugs. Do you think that is by design? It's as general as anything in the domain of religion. Go to a Catholic priest, a Baptist preacher, an Orthodox preach, an imam, a rabbi, a Zen, a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, or any religious leader that is made by mankind that you can find that is created by the mind of man. Those people will not tell you to do psychedelics because they have a system to protect, and they do not want to set free the people who are subscribing to that religion. If giving weight, I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing. If given weight to tradition means anything, it would mean noticing that all these people from wildly different worldviews spanning the entire globe essentially agree on this. People being the key word. I don't know, man. I disagree to a lot of what you're saying here. Owen, I might have to find you, and we might have to talk. You only made one post? God damn it. See, I have a lot of different views. I have a lot of similar views. I have a lot of beliefs, but those come from within me, right? I have these beliefs and these ideas because that's what I experienced. And because of those experiences, I wanted to figure it out. I didn't just go to a preacher saying, save my life, I will listen to you, and then you can try to teach me what you have read and regurgitated from a book. No, I actually went in, I had an experience, and I tried to make sense of it. Like, I want to put my head in a 90-degree angle in that sink, drop my body weight to snap my neck to get out of this hell. That was a very real feeling, and I had to battle that for 7 fucking months in complete solitary confinement while I was trying to figure out why my life stopped. That was a traumatic event. That gave me an experience. I then had to make sense of that experience. Now I am able to snap people the fuck out of their victimized states because they are in a situation that is not that severe. I didn't receive my governmental check this week. I might have to wait 2 weeks. Boo fucking boo hoo. I'm sorry to be almost arrogant. I feel like this is coming across in a tone that might be offensive to some people. But listen, hear me out. The invisible prison that you're being fed from the government who is doing everything that you, so you don't have to do anything. You're simply surviving and complaining about not having enough. That might be the problem. So stop complaining about the situation and walk your talk and do something about it. We all have that power. We have armless and legless men sitting on a torso, literally, talking about things that's setting people free. We have severely physically damaged people spreading hope to those who do not have to go through that pain to see the same insights. We have people who've gone through psychedelic experiences and can make sense for those who have not yet gone through a psychedelic experience. But we are very quick to have opinions about everything and then staying by those, fighting for our convictions, even though those might be the very thing that is keeping us the fuck down. It's weird, huh? What if we came together? What if the system that we all love so much could change? In order to do that, we don't support it. That's it. Because they work because we allow it to. But we are humans. We do not work together. That's everything else in nature's part. We are supposed to be self-sufficient, egocentric, and work for our instant gratification, right? I disagree. I think that if we were to raise together, that power alone would change things, but we need more people to do that. And that's why I have that group that I'm just currently trying to figure out how to communicate with, because it's filled with humans. It's a very fascinating ride. I hope this was interesting. I will try to find Owen Cyclops. And I hope that he's not just a keyboard warrior sprouting his words and doing a spew, through words that he cannot back up in a literal conversation with another person. It's going to be interesting. I want to talk to these people. I want to challenge them a little bit because I think we need to talk about it. Until next time, have a fantastic day. Take care of your fucking family. And I will see you in the next one.